Hi Trav, Beck from Channel 10, how are you?
Very good. How are you, Beck?
Good, thank you. I guess we'll start off with the obvious. Nat Fyfe back this week. You've been having a great fortnight, we're having a great season so far. How does he change things?
I think he's just another player that comes back into the system of what Justin and the coaches and us as a team have really been trying to build. Where he spends his time, mid or forward, is our expectation as players is he just comes in and fills a role. There's an obvious aspect that he's a two-time Brownlow medalist and at his best is one of the best, if not the best player in the competition. So from a player who's going to be running out there on the weekend, to have him and what his abilities or what he's able to do is brilliant. And most importantly, we've got our captain back. I don't think that's something that should be underestimated. Alex Pearce has done a wonderful job while Nate's been out of the team, but the type of leader Nate is and the way that he carries himself, to have him out there on the park as our leader is really important and something that I'm excited to have back.
And an incredible boost halfway through the year to get that sort of, get like you said, your captain back, but also that talented midfielder and forward as well.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot made of where he spends his time, and the wonderful thing is that question is actually to be asked, because it means that we don't necessarily have a gap of where we need to throw him in straight away. We've got fantastic availability of all players across the park, which is something we haven't had in previous years. So where he plays is something that the coaches will determine best position. But yeah, from our expectation of him as a playing group, it's just to play that role as we expect him to, and what we know he can do. And all of us are put in positions where we have clear role descriptors, and then it's allowing you to bring your strengths to the table. And his are such that he can play multiple positions. So that's a brilliant asset for us as a team to have at this time of year.
And not to be underestimated, also getting Walters and Spitter back as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I think from the start of the season, our forward line and particular small forwards, we've had a number of guys, and the combinations of what we can do there has been really exciting for us. So to get Switter and Sonny back into the team down there is such a boost. And again, it's quite role specific down in the forward line. So they'll bring their own strengths, and it's something that will really complement the way that we've been playing, as evidenced in the first 12 rounds.
I'll let others pop in before I ask more.
Craig O'Donnell here at the West Australian. Just on what Beck just said, obviously 3 changes to your forward makeups. You've been scoring really, really well in the past couple of weeks, so obviously really good players coming back. How does it change the dynamic when you have so many different heads moving into the one part of the field?
I don't think it changes too much. The way that we set up our offense, and particularly the way that we like to score, is an even contribution across the whole team, and a lot of it does come off the back of how we defend. Specific roles and the way that guys play allows us to get looks on the other end. And if you look at across the season so far, we've had Matt Taberner kick 6 goals in one game, and apart from that, we haven't really had too many guys who have kicked more than sort of 3 goals in a game. So when the opportunities arise, I think guys have been taking that. And I think that's what's probably showing out this year as opposed to the previous ones, where our accuracy in front of the goal is allowing the spread of goal kickers to go. And ultimately, you need to have multiple threats in this competition. You can't rely on 1 or 2 players to be propping up your goals, because then it's sort of a little bit too one-eyed. So I think for us, it's just another fantastic opportunity to get guys to get an even spread and hopefully kick a high score on the weekend.
And when Nat plays forward, do you notice that the opposition target him differently to what they would other forwards, like whether it's double teaming, triple teaming? Does it change the opportunities for the other forwards just by having him down there?
I don't think so. Because of the way that we are playing, Nat is naturally going to carry a little bit more prominence from the opposition, but it's to just solely put effort into one person. A lot of teams will play team defence and be able to roll around and help and support in the air, and Nat's strengths are his aerial work. So where we play him is just going to complement the rest of the way that we go about it. And it would be harsh on Hawthorn to say that they're going to focus on Nat, because the way that they play is a really solid team D, and so from both sides of things, we can't necessarily be focusing on one person.
Next, I want to jump up.
Yeah, I'll go.
Go for Paddy.
Sorry, Trav, Paddy 20, Channel 9. Just on Nat, obviously coming back and first game in almost 11 months, do you expect Hawthorn to sort of maybe target him physically at all, given he's coming off, the multiple surgeries?
Perhaps. I'm not sure what their mindset will be. I'd like to think that we've got a number of guys who Hawthorn could be targeting in the forward and in the midfield. So if they do go after him, then I think might be a positive for us, because it will mean that they're potentially not focused on some other players or the contest as a whole. So what they do, I'm not sure.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you might have played some junior footy with Nat at Claremont coming through the ranks there. But so you probably, what does he add to a potential forward line, that maybe others don't?
I think his creativity around goal and his aerial presence for someone of his size. Nat's game is built off the back of his contests, and in modern footy, contested marking, particularly inside the forward 50, is such an important aspect. And it's a bit of a luxury, really. The way teams are scoring is a bit more sort of surge, get through and have a spread, rather than those one-on-one contests. So to have a player whose abilities in the air marking and ahead of the football is just such an asset, and it's something that I've seen from when he was a junior coming through.
We know how much of a contested bull he is. In terms of what that brings to the side, the 2 games in the wet this year, you have been sort of found a little bit wanting, and there has been question marks. Obviously, similar conditions are forecast tomorrow. What have you changed in terms of the mindset and what you'll be implementing tomorrow that you see will get you over the line?
Yeah, I think our contested ball and our numbers around that in the wet were actually reasonably strong throughout the 2 games, and it's probably the way that we use the ball going forward and not allowing us to defend when we did happen to turn the ball over. So it's something that we're more than aware of, to have 2 games in a row where we lost and both being in wet weather football, but it doesn't change a whole lot for us. We've got to rely on guys to be able to make the right decisions with the ball, and a predictability when we do go forward of how we can defend in behind that. So having those 2 games, I think, is a really good opportunity for us to learn and grow, and the type of footy that wet weather footy forces you to play is another string we need to add, because it's a winter sport, so we can't be playing at Marvel every weekend. So it's a good opportunity for us just to challenge us and to see how we're growing as a team. I think that's been a strength of ours over the last 12 rounds, and even throughout the preseason, is how we've adapted and grown and taken on messages and actually executed in game. So it's pleasing to see it, but we need to be able to go out there on the weekend and perform.
And I guess being 30 and you've never played a final at the Dockers, I imagine that's probably high on the priority list. And do you allow yourself to actually go, get excited by the prospect of maybe that finals drought breaking, your first one here at Fremantle, and hopefully getting past those 3 elimination final defeats that you've currently got?
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there in terms of it's a prospect at the moment. So to be in this position is fantastic. That being said, if you look at the top 4 and top 8 and where they're going, like there's a number of teams there that can beat anyone. We've grown and we've improved. Personally, yeah, I'd love to win a final. Haven't been able to do that, and the ones that I have played in were extremely disappointing. So for me, I'm getting towards the end of my career, and the opportunity to play in finals obviously gets lesser just purely by the number of years. So I would absolutely love to. Definitely not getting carried away by where we are, and if you look at the team and where we are, I personally need to keep performing to make sure that I'm going to be in the team towards the back end of the year, because we have such a strong group, which I'm more than confident in. But our squad as a whole is what's going to take us forward, and hopefully play finals, not just the 22 guys that run out there each week.
And just the last one from me. You just mentioned, obviously trying to keep your spot in the team. Do you sort of find that you're on edge mentally each week, or there's pressure? How do you deal with that sort of, I guess, not knowing that you personally might not feel that you might not be in that best 22, or you're playing for your spot each week?
Yeah, I think all good teams have situations where you've got really good players and strong players who aren't in the team each week. And for me, all it does is just reaffirm what I need to do in terms of my process, the messages that I'm receiving, and to have a pressure to perform probably brings the best out of most guys. So I'm not at any stage on edge about that, because if I start to think about the what ifs or next week or what will happen, it'll detract from my performance on the game, and the ability just to stay on task and be in the moment. I think throughout my career I've probably been a player that has been on the edge and in and out, but to have clear messages and know exactly what I've got to do, which is really role specific, and feel personally like I do bring something to the team, I sort of am able to simplify it and not overcomplicate what can be at times quite a complex game, and it's just enables me to perform and ultimately execute each weekend.
Thanks, Travis.
All right, thanks, Matt. Just another one on Nat 5. We've been the Nat 5 show, but he even revealed that he dislocated his finger in the waffle on the weekend. Do you just admire what his body's been through? It seems like he's gone through so many surgeries, so many injuries. Do you sit back and just admire the way he just keeps going?
I admire the way he keeps going. I don't admire the amount of surgeries and the bashing of his body, I guess, that has occurred over his time. And it's just a sign of his character, really. His ability to be able to put what's important on the table and deal with pain and pressure. It's just another sign of really the type of person, the player that he is. And I sort of touched on it before, as him as a captain. Like, I actually didn't even know that he dislocated his finger on the weekend. So the way that he carries himself and what he does through his actions is so powerful, and it's something that someone who's the same age as him can really admire. And as younger players coming through to look as to what he does, you don't want to see any players get injured, but what he's able to endure for the greater good, which is hopefully getting this team to where we want it to, is something that's pretty impressive.
How's Michael Frederick holding up? No doubt he's been a bit embarrassed seeing his photos splashed everywhere on the paper and whatnot. How's he been holding up?
Yeah, he was disappointed with what occurred, but Freddie's such a outgoing and really lovable character around the footy club. So we've put our arm around him and supported him as we will with anyone. And I'm sure Rick will have learnt from the decision that he's made, and he'll come back because he's a really important player for us moving forward.
Cool, thanks for that. And Tom, over to you.
Thanks, mate. Trav, I was just looking at your career games. I think last season you played every game, and you played every game in 2017 when you were at Essendon, but apart from that, you haven't. What's changed in the last sort of 2 years that's sort of made you a permanent fixture in this Dockers team, considering that there is all these young guys coming through as well with so much talent?
Yeah, it's something I've thought about myself, and as you get older, you sort of reflect. More recently, it's been on where my body's at physically, and I don't think I've felt this good at this time of year. Looking at some running numbers, which is quite specific to my role, in the last 2 weeks, they've been as good as they have been all year. So preparing myself pre-season to actually give myself an opportunity to play and bring my strength. But something that's probably not to be underestimated is this is the equal longest time I've had one senior coach for a period in my career. We had Hurdy for 3 years with an interruption with Bomber in there. So to have Justin and to be able to really build a strong relationship, knowing where that's going, me knowing that it is coming, I am on the side of 30 now, that you really want to make every opportunity matter. So the conversations that I'm having with Jael, the relationship that I've built with him, the sense of trust that I feel I have in him and he has in me, has just allowed me to just break things down to the simple basics and execution. And so that's, for me, something that I've found really important and really valuable. how much that's contributed, I can't necessarily say, but it's definitely something that I haven't underestimated, of just having one voice from the head coach over a consistent year, and knowing that's going to definitely continue moving forward.
Say you break it down to its simplest elements, I guess. Were you, previous to that, were you personally overcomplicating the game? Were you trying to do too much and be too many things, and that was actually detrimental to your performance on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I would probably make more of situations than what I thought. In game, particularly, I'd be looking too far ahead, and I've worked a lot on the mental side of the game, which has allowed me just to go in so much clearer. Not expecting too much of myself, but having a minimum level of performance that I want to achieve. And that's where I've kind of held myself to account. And knowing that selection, knowing that contract time, knowing all these things will take care of themselves if I'm able to put myself in a mindset that allows me to bring my best, because I know my best, I know where my best sits in terms of Fremantle and my career moving forward.
And just one more for me. I mean, and I mean this with all respect, but I guess you'd be considered a role player at Freo. But when you look across the board, it's the role players who've been so consistent, even without star players and rising stars. It's the role players that stood up. How important is that to the success of the team this year, do you think?
I think it's integral. The way that we want to play, and we've been lucky to not have too many injuries so far, and our availability is strong, and we got pressure from the state league players coming through, that if a player does come out, we don't expect them to come in and change the game. It's just to come in and fill a role. And within our role descriptors and within our game plan, there is freedom for guys to be able to show that who they are as a player, and there's a reason that we are all on a list and that we're all playing AFL football. It's because of our strengths, and it's not because of what we can't do, it's what we can do. So our role players are really important, and everyone has a role. I think that's the reality. There's no one person that goes outside that, and no one that we're not going to hold to account, regardless of who they are or what they've achieved in the game or what they might achieve, just because they're going outside the role. So yeah, it's important. Everyone sort of says it, but you look at the best teams over the years, they've relied on, it's weight of numbers, it's not individual stars.
I think we'll call it there, guys. Thank you.
Just a couple. Can I fit one more in? Is that okay?
Yeah, we'll go one more.
Yeah, just one more. Thanks, Trav. Just have a quick look at Hawthorn. I mean, they're a bit of a mixed bag this year. They challenged the Lions. They challenged the Demons, beat the Lions. What are your thoughts on Hawthorn?
Yeah, we had a look, and their performances against the top teams, as you've mentioned with a couple, they challenged Melbourne, Carlton, Collingwood, Brisbane, and Geelong, and had some wins in those games. So their best is very good, and we expect them to come out pretty strong, particularly sort of with their game style and the way that they've played in previous weeks. So for us, it's just really making sure we can take advantages of the way that we play and the way that we match up against them.